He was on I think a CBS talk show he does with Oprah's best friend. I forget her name. And they were talking about what Aaron had said about Jimmy Kimmel and alluding that Jimmy was going to be upset about the list coming out. Again, he never said he was going to be on the list. I think Aaron was making the point that Jimmy's denied the fact that there would ever be a list. I've said there's going to be a list, and there's a list, and he's going to look foolish when we see the list. Not that his name would be on it. Aaron did a bad job of explaining it. I feel like I just did a much better job of doing it right there. Aaron's done a bad job of explaining it. You know, but Charles Barkley was asked, what would you have done if Aaron Rodgers had said this about you? He said, I'd punch him in the face. He said, I'd punch him in the face. And of course, they tried to throw him the rope, and all like, oh, well, you don't actually mean. He's like, no, I actually mean I would punch him in the face. He's like, when you're in the public eye, people say plenty of crazy things about you. He's like, but this is slander. And I'll remind everybody, no, it isn't. No, it isn't. He never said he was on the list as a pedophile. He was making the point that Jimmy has pushed back on all of this stuff as conspiracy, and as the documents are coming out, nobody wants to remind Jimmy of that.
You thought Stansbury was a mess on air? Check out the show's Facebook page at Stansbury Show. Rock 106.9.
Welcome back to the program. 8:45 this morning. Let's get you in a sonic tempo. 330-450-7625 to text the studio. We were talking about some of the changes we saw in the football world yesterday. Pete Carroll moving upstairs to be an advisor for the Seahawks, opening the head coach job there, which I don't think I would want. I understand the Seahawks wanting to keep Pete Carroll around. Institutional memory is huge for companies. So I can understand why the Seahawks want it. If I'm the next coach, it's like, well, what does advisory role mean? And depending on who you hire, Pete's weight is still going to carry in that building. If you want to do something and Pete wants to do something else, guess who people are going to want to, refer to? It's going to be Pete, I would imagine. Or maybe the building will be split. Well, now that's even a bigger problem. Now you got that problem going. Beyond that, we talked about Nick Saban. He's retired. And now, this shouldn't really be all that shocking. Nick's not necessarily a young man. But I was talking about how I don't think he'd want that job. I mean, he's the man at that. I think it was 7 national titles. It was 10 times he won the SEC. Again, the slug line for the SEC is, it matters more here. Like, dude, they love college football down there. That's their pro sport. Nick, those are big shoes, man. Big shoes. Now, Dabo Sweeney's out there. There's a couple other guys maybe whose names are being, kind of floated around. Kyle found me on my ex at Stansbury Show, and he's like, I'm sure they're going to call Dabo or maybe even Urban Meyer. He says, I feel like they would have to hire somebody with national championships underneath their belt, or a lot of guys are going to be transferring. Yeah, I think a lot of guys are going to transfer no matter what. Even if you hire a guy who's got, some pedigree with the title thing there. Dabo can be a little religious for some players' liking. I think there will be some players who aren't all into that. I don't think it's enough to watch half the roster walk away, but it will be a part of it. We've heard about that through his time with South Carolina. And so I think that could be not South Carolina. I'm sorry, Clemson. Geez, I'm glad I got that turned around. That would have been bad there. But I think that's what's, I think we've heard some of those storylines, so we'll see that, plus transferring in college football has just become all the rage now. So I'm willing to bet they're going to lose some guys anyway. But yes, to stop the bleeding and to help recruiting down the road, you're going to have to get somebody with some pedigree. Now, a name that has been linked to Nick Saban for years and years, who they've worked together before, and they are a little bit of opposites attract here, is Lane Kiffin. Lane kind of blew one of his first opportunities, just being a little too young, do a little bit of that, kind of thought better of it, got the second job, has seemed to turn it around, does a little bit of a better job recruiting, he's got some stuff. If you wanted to go Lane Kiffin, I could understand it, and it would be one of the most interesting things of the entire college football season next year. Deion Sanders says, wow, college football just lost the GOAT to retirement. Wow. He says, I knew it would happen one day soon, but not this soon. The game has changed so much that it chased away the GOAT. College football, let's hold up a mirror and say, honestly, what you see. That's interesting. I don't understand what he's insinuating. I would imagine, is it the transfer portal? I mean, he can't be all that upset about it. He literally emptied his cupboard and brought a bunch of new guys in to Colorado. So I can't imagine that's what Dion is saying. I'm interested there. I think this is a lot about Nick's age. I do think it is about some of about the fact that college coaches don't have the power that they had 5 years ago. And I think some of the older guys aren't going to want to work or operate in the new system. I don't think Nick wants to hang around and hear about how he can't win national championships anymore when players have an ability to change where they want to play on a dime. I don't think he wants to hear those types of conversations, so he's going to walk away from the game as a whole. If you're a television network, you're making an 8-figure offer for Nick Saban today. For sure. Absolutely. That guy could write his own ticket. Whatever he wants to do in the broadcasting world, those networks would trip over themselves to get Nick Saban. Mike Tomlin's another one of those guys where people were talking about how maybe he could find himself without a job in the pro ranks. It's like, dude, CBS and Fox, dude, they'll give him whatever he wants. Literally whatever he wants. He's one of the best at the podium, and so is Nick. Nick is the better Bill Belichick at the podium. Because Nick won't tell you the thing, but he's entertaining when he's doing it. Bill's not always entertaining. Sometimes he's mostly condescending. Nick can be condescending, but you're going to laugh through it. Nick has a better sense of... Bill Belichick's got a better sense of humor than I think most NFL fans know, but I think Nick's is that much better. He's done everything you need to do, and so I don't know why you don't walk away. Winning another title there is only going to get harder and harder again because of the transfer portal thing. So I'm guessing that's what it is, and the age. He's made the money. He has an absolute compound in Alabama. It's probably time just to hang out on the porch, swing a little bit, drink some, sweet tea, and hang out with the wife. I mean, you did everything. Now, give that guy a year of doing nothing, and he'll be in his basement watching tape, doing this, because certain jobs you just can't get out of you. Dan texted in 330-450-7625 and was like, as you're talking about Saban this morning and you brought up Belichick, let's not forget the fact that the Cleveland Browns, again, got a playoff game come Saturday, wild card game there, had two of the best coaches in the history of coaching on that staff. Yeah, Belichick never really seemed to get along with the higher ups and that whole situation when he had been the Browns coach. Sometimes you got to go to your first job, kind of learn the mistakes, make those mistakes, kind of screw it up, and then get offered another job, and then you've learned. You figured it out, and maybe he went and got ownership and, management for him that gave him a little bit more leeway to build his thing and kind of do it that way. But yeah, when you look back at that Cleveland Browns team, when you think about the fact of how good Bill Belichick and Nick Saban both are at their jobs, it's almost remarkable that didn't go better. It's almost hard to believe. But again, look at those pictures of Nick and Bill back then. They look like children. They look like little kids. And it's maybe they were just a little young for that position. Probably more Bill than Nick there, right? And so I think a lot of times you get a job, it's maybe a little bit before you were ready to do it. A lot of performance jobs are going to be like that because the only way to get the experience is to do it. And so you get the job maybe a little bit before you're ready to be able to handle it. You kind of screw it up. Everybody fires you. You're an idiot. And then somebody takes a shot on you, and now you've learned. Like I've said, man, I've said it many, many times. I am better at what I do today than I was in 2000 when I started. Way better. Because of experience. This is a performance job. It's working without a net. And if you go back and listen to the first time I ever hosted midnight to 6 a.m. on the Buzzard, I don't sound anything like the way I do. Nothing. Now, I thought I was confident, I thought it was this and that, but if you go back and listen to that tape, it's like, Jesus, dude. This kid is urinating down his leg every time he opens that microphone. But that is not the way it sounds today.
Like a wake and bake with an easy bake oven. The Stansberry Show on Rock 1069.
Welcome back to the program. And this was the most predictable thing of all time. But I was talking about coaches and the carousel, and Saban's out at Alabama, he's retiring, and Pete Carroll's moving upstairs for the Seahawks, and we started talking about how once upon a time the Cleveland Browns had both Nick Saban and Bill Belichick on the staff, and I was making the point that yes, earlier on in their career, they probably were not the coaches they are today. As a matter of fact, I think we know that to be true. And a lot of times, you get your first job, it didn't really go as well as you want, and then you kind of get kicked in the teeth a little bit, you learn, you move on, and you get better at what you do. And I was making that point about how I've been on the air, luckily, for, over 20 years now. And I do not sound the way I did when I first started. You know. Now I'll say, people ask me all the time, do you still get nervous to go on the air? Not every day. Every day there's a realization that, dude, you're working without a net. You can fall and smack right into the pavement, baby. So pay attention. Pay attention now. So there's a little bit of that. There are days when I feel as if the content's not what I'm in love with. I'm a little bit more nervous on those days. There still is every moment, every morning, I should say, right before you go on the first time, where there's the, all right, here we go. Here goes another one. It's not quite the same fear of when I first started. When I was doing overnights, again in Cleveland, my first shift ever was midnight to 8 a.m. That's a long time, right? And I remember just looking at that music log, and I was like, I only got 30 more minutes before I got to say something. I only got 25 more minutes before I got to say something. I only got 20 minutes. And I mean, it was just a full-on panic at all times. And I was talking about how I'm much more comfortable today than I was then, obviously. So, of course, this came in on the text line. And I'll apologize here. This person didn't give me their name. Hey, Stansbury, you're talking about how different you sound from the early days. How about a new segment called Throwback Thursday, Cringeworthy Clips? You give us 30 seconds of an old piece and then discuss.
Los Angeles.
All right, so here's the thing on that. I absolutely would love that idea, and that's what we in the business call easy street. Like, that's literally me just putting the feet up and taking a cigarette break and screwing around. So I love the idea. I'm not sure I'm going to be able to do it, as I have a hard drive that has every Maxwell show I ever did is on that. Just about, anyway. And most of my early run here at Rock 106.9. They have
live in
denied me
Ohio.
access to the USB ports in these computers, so I'm not able to keep as much
Rainy,
of my stuff
foggy
now
day.
as I once was. I'm sure that's just an IT email, and they'll get it turned around. So I'll look through that hard drive, and if I can find things from when I was working solo on that will not be any good whatsoever, I will do that. Now, another thing we could do with that is I've talked about how a lot of my positions have changed in 20 years.
Driving out through the middle of Amish country.
I think what we could maybe do is go, hey, you want to hear Stansbury contradict himself? We can maybe work on a segment like that. Let me see if I can get access to these USB ports and these computers in here, get that hard drive in here, get it in the editor, and pull some clips. It probably won't be a week or two. Give me a little bit of time, and we'll see if we can't get that underway for you. I appreciate the text, and you can send yours. 330-450-7625 is how you do it. All right. I have long been a marijuana proponent. Now, part of that is because, well, I use said product. Now, I've said, I don't buy into this whole thing that marijuana is not addictive. I don't buy into that. I've seen it be addictive in my own life. During the Christmas break, holiday break, I found myself running out, and I was like, this is it.
A lot better scenery whenever the sky's blue.
And I was like, got about another 9 days.
The sun's out.
Call the guy, get him here today. Sure enough,
just kind of a
that's addiction.
Dreary day.
If you say to yourself in the same day, I'm going to be done.
For a midwinter
and then 2 hours
Ohio.
later, no, I'm not. Guess what? Welcome to addiction. I know nobody wants to hear that about that drug, but it is the reality. But that's not what we're going to talk about. Marijuana's got plenty of stereotypes attached to it. One of them is that it robs you of your motivation. I think I have seen this a little bit in my life. But they say here, a study claims that smoking weed before working out will actually boost your motivation and can make it more fun. Now, this reminds me of Ricky Williams. We've talked maybe a little too much football already, and we're going to talk a lot about tackle football coming up at 8 o'clock as California wants to put an end to it.
It's not too bad out.
But I remember Ricky Williams.
It's a little chilly, but
was telling everybody he was smoking weed before he was working out, and I was like, man, that seems like that.
It's actually warmer right now than it has been for the last couple weeks.
80% of cannabis users have mixed weed and working out. I don't buy that. I would buy that 80% of people who
mid-20s.
I don't think 80%
2 days
of
ago.
marijuana users. I feel like that was written poorly there.
It's supposed to go up into the 50s here later this week.
To our madness. University of Colorado researchers conducted a first-of-a-kind study. So again, first of its kind, wait more, they'll do 10 more studies, and some of that information may fly in the face of what we're hearing here. But they found that smoking weed before hitting the gym increases motivation and enjoyment. Well, increasing enjoyment, there is no denying. I will watch television shows I would never watch when when you smoke a little weed, it's like, all right, I'm going to be able to forgive this cheesiness here and look past the plot lines here and look at plot holes rather, and I'm going to be able to do that because of the marijuana. And I can see. Anytime I've ever had to go to like an in-laws, I've never been married, but you take the point, it's like, all right, dude, let's take the vape pen with us because this is going to suck, right? And like that kind of stuff. So of course, weed makes things more enjoyable. If it didn't, I don't think people would do it. Participants hopped on treadmills, they say, for 30 minutes after smoking marijuana and found not only did the time pass by quicker for them, but the workout felt harder when they ran sober. I'm not surprised by that. This is what a lot of people's criticisms of drugs and alcohol is that it shades your opinions, it shades your
not all the
viewpoints,
time,
and it changes your perceptions on what's going on around you.
Once in a while.
The team suspected the runner's high is stemming from the drug tapping into naturally produced brain chemicals that make you feel euphoric. I don't have a problem believing that either. The runner's high is likely caused by chemicals in the brain called endogenous cannabinoids with kickoff after longer workouts. The reality is some people will never experience the runner's high, that according to the first author. But plenty of people will. The study included, this is a very small study, 42 participants who were already running while using cannabis. They were then divided into two different groups. One used a designated flower strain, meaning, traditional marijuana as you think of it. And then the others then
basically
used
supported by this brickyard
CBD.
here.
And the differences there. The THC and CBD are active ingredients in cannabis, which THC known to be the one that, brings the intoxication. The first portion of the study had participants run on a treadmill at a moderate pace for 30 minutes. They were asked questions
She's doing real good.
throughout that and to assess how motivated that they felt, how much they were enjoying it. And each person redid the experiment while under the influence,
Still adjusting to the culture.
Influence of marijuana. Across the board, participants reported greater enjoyment and more intense euphoria or runner's high when exercising after using cannabis.
Everybody's healthy.
In the press release. They say the heightened mood was even greater, however, in the CBD group than the THC group, suggesting athletes can get some of the same benefits to mood, changing the mood while working out without the impairment that can come with THC. And I could believe some of that too. I have seen this in my own life. I will run on a treadmill or an elliptical, maybe even do stationary bike when going to the gym. I should probably go today. And it is a little true.
Got a couple new videos coming up here soon.
It's so
working on them right now.
On the couch and I smoke weed. The thing I don't want to do, wash my dishes, probably isn't getting done.
Went out of town for our 2nd year anniversary.
Right? It somehow will stop me from doing that. But I will.
Got a video of that coming up, and working on a New Year's Eve
all right, one more song.
video that we.
All right, we can do this. Give me another 5 minutes.
I gotta go through some of the video on that.
All the rage right now.
Blank out certain people's faces and stuff that don't want to be in it.
It kind of puts you in that place where whatever's going around you, you're just kind of okay with it, which could both be a benefit and a detriment of smoking marijuana there, right? They say the bottom line is that cannabis before exercise seems to increase positive mood and enjoyment during said exercise, whether you're using THC or CBD. They say THC products specifically make exercise feel more effortful. The University of Colorado conducted a previous study that found how many people smoke weed before going to the gym. In a 2021 study, it revealed that while running at the same speed and intensity as the CBD group, THC participants reported that it was much more difficult than running sober. I don't find the running is or the biking is. I will tell you, if I hit a vape pen or something like that before going into a gym and I'm going to lift, that feels like it's like a little bit like heavier and like maybe I don't want to do this, but I also find myself going, all right, dude, I'm kind of high. I'm just in the gym already. I might as well just stay here. I might as well just do this. Again, it does marijuana is going to affect people differently, and different strains will will affect you differently and this and that. It does put me in that I'm a little bit more a stereotypical marijuana user in this regard. It does make me lazy. It kind of puts me in that I've told you I have a hard time sometimes relaxing and just kind of sitting still, and like I feel very guilty if I just like plant myself in front of the TV and do that. I always hear voices in my head, work harder, you're not done, you could be better, you could do this, blah blah blah, don't relax, yeah, stay at it, keep your foot on the gas, all that, dude. It's always my mind runs 100 miles a minute. I'm reading the David Lee Roth book, and in that book, it's a biography, not his auto. And it says in that book that David says when he smokes marijuana, because it brings everything down to half speed. And he can kind of then interact with other people, and he's not as, up. And a lot of people self-medicate with marijuana. Absolutely. And I would imagine that's part of what I've been doing my entire life too. And that, yes, it is sometimes about slowing down the speed of my brain and how fast it moves. I am worn out at the end of most days by how I think. Now, I'm willing to bet that's probably more common. I'm not saying I'm abnormal or anything. I think a lot of people are like that. But I am one of those people. But have I found myself with a runner's high?
We're about to get into
to run because I knew I was high
deep
overall?
Amish country right now.
Yes.
We'll probably start seeing
at no point
horses and buggies and
incoherent response
people scurrying around on
that can be
bicycles.
considered a rational thought.
The Stansberry Show.
Everyone in this room is now dumber for having listened to it.
On Rock 1069.
Welcome back to the program. 330-450-7625 to text the studio. You also need that number at 845 to get yourself into Sonic Temple. I have those tickets today, too. I got people in the conspiracy tip now trying to tell me that the committee put Nick Saban in Alabama in this last year because they knew it was his last year. Nick Saban retires yesterday. I don't see it. Most people felt like Alabama didn't have the team to win the national title, just felt like they might have been still one of the best 4 teams in the country. You can be one of the best 4 teams in the country and not be a team that can win the title. I think most people kind of felt like Michigan was going to be the team this year. I don't see it. I don't think you got to trip over yourselves. The bigger conspiracy with putting Alabama is it's a better television rating, and it would be. That's all the conspiracy theory you need for the committee looking to put Alabama in versus somebody else. That's the conspiracy. Not Nick Saban trying to get him one before he's done. The guy won the SEC 10 times, 7 national titles. He's done it. He's victory. That guy is moonwalking into the College Sports Hall of Fame, College Football Hall of Fame, all of them for crying out loud. He's moonwalking in. So I don't see that. The conspiracy theory of it being a better television rating, that I think is a stronger conspiracy. I have 2 conflicting stories here. Now, one's out of these are studies, one from the U.S. and one from the U.K., but I don't think the viewpoints would be this different. And it's happiness in the workplace with your boss. You and I have talked plenty about remote work, right? And I push back against it. I have said about remote work that it's a lot like somebody starting a business. That there are self-starters out there who should be running businesses. Most people I know, and I don't know you, so settle down, most people I know should not be running a business. I've said about the bar business. I've been a bar manager, I've been a bartender, I've been a door guy, I've done every job in that field, including being a co-owner with my brother. It makes 0 sense for me to open a bar on my own today. 0. Without my brother, that does not go. David is the bar brain. He knows that business inside and out. He has dedicated his life to it. Could I come into a bad bar and tell people, well, dude, that's not right, and that's not right, and that's not right? Sure, absolutely. Do I know the business as well as I should to be able to do it? No. Am I as motivated as I maybe need to be running my own bar? Maybe not. Maybe not. And that's remote work to me. Do I know a lot of people who benefit from working remotely? Yes. I have 2 coworkers that I think absolutely got better at their job because of remote work. Are there other people where that's less true of? Yes. Absolutely. When the cat's away, the mice will play. And so I have pushed back against remote work. We were talking yesterday, and I think I'm right, that the standards of American business right now are absolutely in the toilet. It's disgusting, kind of what's happened, and COVID kind of kicked that off, and remote work came out of that. Absolutely came out of it. So the 2 studies, they tell me here that in America, most American workers say their boss is capable, confident, and fair. I was a little shocked to read that from the Pew Research Center, by the way. Not like I'mRight.com. The Pew Research Center is where we're getting that data. That most American workers say their boss is capable, confident, and fair. That's interesting to me. because I have like more than one boss, right? My direct report, I would absolutely list as capable, and I would go beyond that. He is far beyond capable. He's one of the best programming minds I've worked with. He is definitely confident, although it may not always sound like it on his radio show, but in his ability to manage and run programming, is he confident? The answer is yes. Absolutely. And is he fair? Well, I have long said since working here that he is easily the best quality of life boss I have ever had. Will literally look at you and be like, dude, what are you still doing? Go home. You can read it. What are you doing? Right? Like, or if I need a day, or if I need this, absolutely. So I would be in this group of people. Now, that has not always been true in my radio career. There have been plenty of times where I have worked for bad management and was negatively affected by it. Another broadcaster who I have always heard say this, and I like it, and I think it applies to all career fields, not just mine. But Colin Cowherd has told young broadcasters, don't chase money. Chase good management. Good management is going to put you in the position to make more money. And that has absolutely been my experience. For sure it has. So that's what Americans are saying. The bulk of them. Again, this was released November 13th, just last year, a couple of months ago. It ain't like I'm going back to 2012 and finding this. This is current from the Pew Research Center. Okay? So they dug into it a little bit. The majority of workers give their boss a high rating. 26% of people said my boss was good. 20% said they were fair or poor. I feel like that's a weird group to be putting in. And excellent to very good, 55% of respondents said it that way. What workers think their bosses do well? Giving employees flexibility to balance work and their personal life, 63%. Giving employees credit when it's due, 56%. That happens here a lot. Staying calm under pressure. My boss has gotten better at this in the 10 years I've worked for him. Setting a high standard. He absolutely does. Being open to new ideas. He is. Sometimes you have to convince him your idea was his to get it done, but he is open to new ideas. Being clear about expectations. He will absolutely kick in that door and tell me what it is he wants, and if he doesn't get it, he's going to be in my ass because of it. Absolutely will do it. Making tough decisions. My boss is great. Now, I brought it up and I said there's a difference here in opinions between American workers and the UK, and it's a pretty drastic difference. So we'll tell you what workers in the UK had to say about going back to the office, because they don't want to do it. And I'll let you know why next.
You're never too old for a good morning kiss. The Stansberry Show, Rock 106.9.
Welcome back to the program. I need to thank John, who found me on my Instagram, dan.stansberry, and Mike, who texted in at 330-450-7625, both of them letting me know that the end of an era has... Let's hear it. Bill Belichick out as Patriots head coach. Now, I have not read, the bulk of an article yet. I'm slated to talk a little football at 8 o'clock with what California's looking to do with tackle football, so I'm going to fold Bill Belichick into the first part of that conversation, and we'll get to that. We had been talking about, you and I, that in this country, as some data came out in November, just this last year, a couple of months ago, that most American workers said their boss is capable, confident, and fair, which kind of flies in the face of what everybody's always saying on social media, right? And 63% of workers rate their boss highly on giving employees flexibility for work-life balance. Now, of course, I think some bosses have been dragged to that place because of some of the conversations we've had, post-COVID. My boss has been pretty good about this, even pre-COVID. I remember when I started working here, and I was like, wait, he's not going to chain me to the board like they used to? Like, I'm not going to get yelled at for taking my vacation days? You're not going to suggest you're going to replace me with the next person who's applying for my job because I want to go to Vegas and see my family? You're not going to do that? Oh, good. Oh, good. It looks like the next 10 years of my career will be better than the first 10. Thank God. Right? There was a little bit of that. I was happy about that, right? But I think some bosses have gotten better about this. Because of some of the open and honest conversations that have been happening. I brought it up because over in Europe, it looks like things are not so good. In the UK, they say a third of employees are refusing to come back to in-office work because their boss is so bad. They're trying to avoid their boss. They're looking for more flexible companies to avoid said person. And look, I've worked for great bosses and I've worked for bad ones. working for a good boss does make a difference. For sure it does. Absolutely. I can tell you that if I had a bad boss this last 10 years, I may not be sitting. Now, I may be because, you know, the money's pretty good and it's not the worst job in the world and this and that. And so maybe I'd just be able to keep my head down and kind of deal with a bad boss. I don't know about that. The last time I had a really bad boss in this industry, I couldn't shut up about it. And I've literally lit that bridge on fire every last time that I've gotten the opportunity to do it since.